I still remember the exact words she said to me that night. "I just need some space. Please don't call or text me for a while." I was confused, but I respected her wishes. I thought maybe she was stressed from work, or wanted to think about our relationship in peace. So I stepped back, even though it hurt me deeply. For days, I kept myself busy, convincing my heart that it was only temporary, that she would come back to me when she felt ready. I didn't want to be that clingy boyfriend who couldn't give his girl the time she asked for. But everything changed when one of my friends sent me photos from her social media. At first, I didn't want to look, but curiosity took over. As I scrolled through her recent posts, my hands started trembling. There she was, smiling under the sun on a beautiful beach, her arms wrapped around her ex-boyfriend as if they never broke up. They looked so happy together while I sat at home, thinking she needed space to breathe. My heart was burning with anger and betrayal. I felt like a fool for believing her words. That's when something inside me snapped. Her car was in my name, and she still had the house key. So before she even came back from her little romantic vacation, I did what I had to do. I sold her car without a second thought, and then I changed all the locks on my apartment. But when she finally came back and realized what I had done, her reaction was something I never expected. And that moment changed everything for both of us forever. When she returned, it was late in the evening. I was sitting on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen, still feeling that strange mix of anger and sadness. Suddenly, I heard the familiar sound of her car pulling up in the driveway, only to realize there was no car anymore. I peeked through the curtains and watched as she stood frozen where her car used to be parked. She looked around, confused, then quickly walked up to the door and tried to unlock it with her key. But it didn't work. She knocked on the door, at first lightly, then harder, until she started banging it with her fists. I could hear her muffled voice calling my name. I didn't move. My heart was racing as I watched her through the peephole, her expression turning from confusion to fear and then to pure anger. She pulled out her phone, probably to call me, but I had already blocked her number. A few seconds later, I saw her trying to call my roommate, but he wasn't home, and honestly, he didn't care about her either. I thought back to how we met. She used to work at a coffee shop near my office. She would always add a little smiley face on my cup. Slowly, we started talking, and soon we were inseparable. She would tell me about her dreams of traveling the world, how she wanted to take photos on every beach she visited. I trusted her with my whole heart. But maybe that was my mistake, trusting too much and never expecting betrayal. As I watched her pacing outside, I wondered what excuses she would give me this time. Would she blame me for not trusting her? Or say it was just a friendly vacation? Deep down, I knew this was only the beginning of something darker between us. She stood outside for almost an hour, calling different people, pacing back and forth, sometimes kicking the door in frustration. I could hear her sobbing quietly when no one answered her calls. Part of me felt guilty seeing her like that, but the anger in my chest was stronger. I kept thinking about those vacation photos, her sitting close to him, their faces glowing with happiness, their drinks raised in cheers. It felt like I was watching a movie where the hero is the biggest fool. Then, something else hit me. What if she had been seeing him even while we were together? What if all those times she came home late from work, or canceled our dinner plans last minute, she was with him instead? My mind replayed every little suspicious moment that I once ignored because I loved her too much to doubt her. I felt sick to my stomach. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a message from her best friend, Tanya. It said, "Why are you doing this to her? She just needed a break to think about your relationship. You're being cruel." Reading that made my blood boil. I didn't reply, but I wondered if Tanya knew about her trip with her ex. Maybe they were all covering for her, making me the bad guy in their story. The thought of being betrayed by not just her but also by people I thought were close to me hurt even more. Outside, I saw her sitting on the stairs now, hugging her knees to her chest. The porch light made her look so small and helpless. But I knew better than to feel sorry. She created this mess. And as I watched her under that dim yellow light, a part of me wondered what she was thinking at that moment, and how far she would go to get back what she had lost. She stayed there on the stairs until midnight, shivering slightly in the summer night breeze. Every now and then, she would look up at my window, her eyes pleading, but I didn't move. My chest felt heavy with so many emotions fighting inside me: love, anger, betrayal, guilt. I didn't know which feeling was stronger anymore. All I knew was that I couldn't let her walk over me again. Suddenly, she stood up and began banging the door with all her strength, screaming my name and cursing through her tears. Her voice cracked as she yelled, "Please open the door! Just talk to me. I can explain everything." Hearing her like that shook me, but I clenched my fists and reminded myself of those photos, of her choosing him over me while I sat at home thinking she needed space. She continued to scream, her voice echoing in the quiet street. Lights turned on in a few neighboring houses, and I saw some people peeking out from their windows, whispering among themselves. Then she threatened to call the police, saying I had stolen her car. That made me smirk bitterly. The car was under my name, and she knew it. But her desperation showed how far she was willing to go to force me to open that door. I saw her dialing 911, but after a moment she put her phone down. Maybe she realized it would only make her situation worse. She sat down again, crying into her hands, her shoulders shaking. For a second, I almost opened the door. Almost. But then I thought about everything she took away from me, my trust, my peace, my dignity. And as I watched her fall apart outside that locked door, I felt the tension rising to its peak. Something told me the worst was yet to come. I was about to walk away from the door when I noticed her staring at her phone with a strange expression. Her tears had stopped, and her face slowly turned cold and serious. She wiped her eyes and began typing something quickly. For a moment, I wondered what she was planning. Then my phone buzzed again with a message from an unknown number. It said, "If you don't open the door right now, I will tell everyone what you did to me. I will destroy your life." My heart started racing. What was she talking about? What lies was she planning to spread now? I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized she had probably prepared for this moment. Maybe she knew I wouldn't take her back so easily, so she came back with a plan to make me pay. Before I could process it fully, another message came in, this time with screenshots of our old private conversations, cropped in ways that made me look manipulative and toxic. Then came photos of a small bruise she got months ago when she slipped in the kitchen, but here she was threatening to tell people I hit her. My head was spinning. My stomach felt tight with fear and anger. This was beyond anything I expected from her. Outside, she stood up again, holding her phone with confidence. I saw her taking a selfie with tears in her eyes, probably for her story to make me look like the monster who locked her out. The stakes had suddenly become so much higher. She wasn't just here to get her car or keys back. She was ready to ruin my entire life and reputation if I didn't give her what she wanted. And in that moment, I realized I was trapped in a nightmare with no way out. I stood there frozen, staring at those messages on my phone. My mind was screaming at me to do something before she ruined everything I had worked for. I took a deep breath, unlocked the door, and opened it just enough to look at her. She immediately pushed past me and entered the apartment without saying a word. Her eyes were red, but her face looked determined, almost victorious. She stood in the living room, looking around like she owned the place again. I asked her why she was doing this to me. She smirked and said, "Because you think you can just erase me from your life like I never existed? That's not how this works." My heart sank as I realized she never planned to apologize or explain anything about the vacation. This was all about control. She pulled out her phone and threatened to post those edited screenshots and photos unless I gave her the money from the car I sold and let her stay here until she found her own place. I felt my whole body shaking with rage and fear. But then I remembered something. A week before all this happened, I had installed a small security camera in the living room because of a minor break-in scare in the neighborhood. It had recorded everything she just said to me, her threats, her blackmail, her confession. Slowly, I turned my phone around and showed her the live footage from the camera. Her face went pale instantly. "You think you can ruin my life with lies?" I said quietly. "Now I have the truth recorded forever." She lunged at me to grab the phone, screaming in anger, but I stepped back, my finger hovering over the option to send the recording to her parents and the police. Her eyes widened with horror as she realized she had lost. But what she did next left me shocked beyond words. She suddenly fell to her knees in front of me, crying so hard that her whole body was shaking. For a second, I thought she was faking it again, but when I looked into her eyes, I saw real fear there. She kept repeating, "Please don't send that. Please. I'll do anything. Just don't ruin me." Her voice sounded small, like a child who got caught stealing. I stayed silent, looking down at her. The girl who once smiled at me from behind a coffee counter, who used to kiss my forehead every morning before work, was now on the floor begging me for mercy. It felt unreal. She grabbed my leg and sobbed, saying she didn't want her parents to see her like this, that her ex wasn't serious about her either, and now she had nowhere to go. I felt a bitter sadness in my chest, thinking about how love can turn so ugly when respect and honesty die. Finally, I told her to leave my apartment and never contact me again. I promised I wouldn't send the recording to anyone as long as she disappeared from my life for good. She agreed instantly, wiping her tears and rushing to pack the few clothes she left behind. Before leaving, she stood at the door, looking at me one last time. Her eyes were empty, defeated. She didn't say a single word, just turned around and walked out of my life forever. That night, as I sat on the same couch where all of this began, I felt strangely calm. There was no joy or victory in what I did. Only relief that it was finally over. I deleted the recording the next morning because I didn't want to keep any proof of that darkness in my life. I blocked her and everyone connected to her, determined to start fresh. This whole experience taught me one thing: love without honesty is just a slow poison. If someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Life is too short to give your heart to people who treat it like an option. As I closed my eyes to rest that morning, I promised myself that my peace would never again be up for negotiation.